status of climate refugee in the UK. YCA Wales is an apolitical group of 15 young climate activists from across Wales. We are facilitated by the amazing charities Size of Wales and Welsh Centre for International Affairs, who we will hear from later on. We are a completely youth-led group who aim to amplify the voices of young people, both here in Wales and around the world. Since we were established in 2020, we have achieved so much, and so I'd like to hand over to our members to share a bit about our work and our most recent projects.
So you may be wondering why we've chosen to focus on the seemingly unheard of issue of climate refugees. Well, as Phyllis said, YCA exists to amplify the voices of young people in Wales and around the world. And in 2021, we hosted the Wales Youth Climate and Nature Summit alongside WWF Cymru, Eco Schools Wales, Size of Wales and Keep Wales Tidy. At the National Summit, the young people of Wales put forward their concerns about the climate and the actions that they would like to see the Welsh Government undertake.
One concern in particular that was repeated again and again was the impact of climate change, not just people around the world, but here in Wales and the rest of the UK. There are areas in my local community in Cardiff and towns in North Wales that are at serious risk of flooding in the near future. And as a collective, YCA believed that the issue of climate displacement was not being adequately addressed in the mainstream climate conversation. Therefore, it was vital to launch a petition to advocate for those who are not acknowledged by the majority, the international community and the UK government.
Meeting fair trade coffee farmers from Uganda and indigenous peoples at COP26, such as the Wampis Nation and the Guarani, opened our eyes to the fact that those who have contributed the least to climate change are being disproportionately impacted. Furthermore, learning about the real-life impacts of climate change demonstrated to us that climate change is no longer an issue of the future, but today. This, along with the concerns of the young people of Wales, encouraged us as a group to shift our focus to the lack of recognition behind the status of climate refugee.
So you've heard why our shift has focused onto climate refugees, but why does this issue actually matter? Well, in 2020, the UN released a report stating that unless serious climate action was taken across the world, then 200 million people will require humanitarian assistance. And this every single year until 2050. This is double the amount that it currently stands. But what does this 200 million actually mean? Who even are these 200 million people? Well, here at YCA, we believe that 200 million is more than just a powerful statistic for headlines. We believe that this is 200 million lives, 200 million stories. And yet, these continue to be 200 million people that we ignore, and that society pushes on the back burner of discussions and action. In fact, on the world stage, and even in the UK, we don't even recognise these people. We haven't even given them a name. But to be frank, we cannot ignore this issue any longer. And at YCA, we will not allow this issue to be ignored any longer. We believe that people displaced due to the impacts of climate change are and should be known as climate refugees. Despite their ever-increasing prevalence, climate refugees are not currently recognised as legitimate refugees in international law, in the same way as those who have been displaced because of war or who are being persecuted. This discrepancy in law means that climate refugees are not able to access legal protection afforded to other refugees. To be frank, this is unjust and deeply unfair, and demonstrates how we as a society continue to sit aside while climate change continues to impact those already most vulnerable in society. This means that change needs to happen, and we believe that a first step to this is recognising the status of climate refugee in the UK. By doing this, the UK government has an incredibly unique and important opportunity to act as a world leader. And this is vital considering the ever increasing importance of this issue. It is a brave step, but it's one of vital importance. Because this is not a new issue, and action is long overdue. Just last June, over 1,700 people lost their lives due to extreme flooding in Pakistan, leaving 33 million people, 16 million of which were children, displaced. Events like this are only projected to increase in severity and frequency, and yet we continue to ignore them. But climate change can and will affect all of us. Even here in Wales, last summer we saw that large parts of South Wales were impacted by droughts, crop failures and wildfires as the UK faced one of the driest summers on record. And even the villagers of Fairborn in Wales are facing the very real prospect of becoming the UK's first climate refugees. The impacts of climate change are only going to increase this risk. And ultimately, with more disasters comes more displacement. 1.2 billion people, 1.2 billion could be displaced across the world due to climate change by 2050. As a group of youth activists, we implore that the UK government needs to recognise the status of climate refugees to ensure that they are entitled to the same protection, rights, and respect as those who are currently able to obtain the refugee status in the UK. By doing this, we can show our protection and our care towards millions, if not billions of people. Ignorance to this issue is unacceptable. Negligence to this issue is unacceptable. And a lack of action towards this issue is not only dangerous, but it is violent. I would now like to hand over to Jane from the Welsh Centre of International Affairs, who is going to speak about the role that Wales plays in the world and in connection to climate change, especially as a nation of sanctuary.
Fawr iawn, Cofi. Anhygoel, as we teimlo mor falch o fod yma heddiw yn cynrychioli canolfan materion rhyngwladol Cymru. Thank you so much, Poppy, and all the group here. I feel so proud to be here as representing the Welsh Centre for International Affairs this morning at this event. So important. We should have loads of people here, and we have a shame. Never mind. So Wales is a small country. So what can we do on these huge issues? Well, we know, for instance, that the Welsh Government has declared a climate emergency in Wales and has also set a target to reach net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. Between 2016 and 2020, greenhouse gas emissions decreased to an average of 28% below 1990 levels, and positive steps have been taken by the Welsh Government in terms of policy. At the same time, however, a progress report produced in June 2023 identified that much more needs to be done, for instance, to reduce agricultural emissions, set ambitious targets to encourage people to use public and sustainable transport, and including infrastructure for electric cars. Those are just some examples. We've got another reason to be proud in Wales, and that's that we're a nation of sanctuary. We aim to be Cenedl Lloches, so the first nation of sanctuary in the UK. A nation where those fleeing war, human rights abuses, and the devastation caused by climate change can be sure of a welcome in communities and able to contribute to them, rather than being seen as a burden on society or apart from it. This is a collaborative approach, of course, including cities of sanctuary and many individuals and groups taking action to welcome refugees and asylum seekers across Wales. We need to acknowledge that, as global emissions climb, as Poppy has just said, the issue of climate refugees will also be one of the most critical issues facing us as a developed nation. And it really needs to be taken seriously. We hope that as a small but global society and nation, we will take the lead on this as on many other issues. As mentioned above, real progress isn't only about politicians. It is one of the really exciting things about living in Wales is that things are collaborative and that we also take a community approach to tackling these problems. And this is true of the climate emergency as well. This is exemplified by the work of Climate Cymru, hosted by the Centre for International Affairs, which brings together a growing network of hundreds of individuals and organisations from across Welsh society who are taking action on the climate emergency. To ensure that Wales reaches net zero is a nature positive country, and importantly, that we take into account climate justice, recognising that it's the most vulnerable in society, both in Wales and of course globally, who are most suffering from climate change. Importantly, we need to listen to people and to what they need and to what they care about as part of this process. And this is one reason why the work of the Young Climate Ambassadors is so hugely important. If you're not part of Climate Cymru's work, please sign up today. It's very easy. You just go onto their website. So become part of Climate Cymru's work and part of this extremely important work that the young people are doing to create a fairer and more sustainable world in Wales and also globally. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you so much, Jane. I'm now going to hand over to someone who's going to share his experience with us. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm Suleiman from Burkina Faso in West Africa. And I've been here for 1 year and also involving in a political party in my country as a secretary of the Youth Party. And it is an ecological party, so that's why when we are talking about climate change, it concerning also a party. And as a political party and an ecological party from West Africa, what I can say is what we do to awareness people to sensibilize our community about climate change, because we know that Burkina Faso is a part of the Sahel zone of West Africa, which is suffering about climate change, and our economy is also based agriculture, and we know how the farmland is very important for population, and most of them have to move because of the climate change, because of the lack of the farmland, and that's why during our activities we used to explain everything about climate change to the population, to people, to know that we have to take care about our environment, the nature, and also talk with some properties company, because most of time they use like a big part of the land for construction for properties. So we have also to teach them and explain how they can change the technique of buildings to save. And I'm really happy to be here today with you. Yeah. Share my experience back home, because the situation is different from Africa and in the UK. In my country, the weather is feeling very hot in my country, but here the weather is cold, and we know what we are talking about, like the temperature in my country sometimes can feels like around 45, 47, 48 degree. So 45 degree, it means that we have to do more. We have to awareness people. We have to talk with the government. We have to talk with the politician to take care about our environment, to see how they can help, like national organization or national association, the activists, to make like to plant like trees and to change their behavior about nature. I'm really happy to be here, talk about climate refugees, because if you don't have any place to stay, you have to move, and if you move, you become a refugee. So that's why the topic is very important for me, and I'm very happy to be invited, and also I can say that I will be with you to support if you need my help for your petition, and also to talk with UK government, Welsh government, because what you are doing is very, very, very important. And like a young like you doing this kind of job, I'm very proud of you, and I can just encourage you for what you are doing for the nature, what you are doing for your community, what you are doing for your country, what you are doing for the world. So thank you so much. My English is like that. I'm doing my best. So just speaking French. So I'm also learning. So thank you so much for your invitation. Thank you again for your invitation. So thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suleiman, for sharing your story with us and for your support. Over the past 15 months, we have been working very hard as a group to raise awareness of the issue of the lack of recognition of climate refugees with politicians, young people, charities and NGOs from across the UK. It gives me great pleasure to announce that our petition calling on the UK government to recognise the status of climate refugee in the UK is now live. Recognising climate refugees as legitimate refugees will ensure that they are entitled to the same protection, rights and respect as those who are currently able to obtain refugee status in the UK. We are aiming to collect 100,000 signatures from the UK public and take our petition to Westminster to be debated. Every signature we collect is a demonstration of solidarity with climate refugees and a recognition that climate refugees exist. Please do sign our petition and share it as widely as possible. Diolch yn fawr iawn am ddod. Thank you very much for taking the time today to attend our official petition launch event. We would now like to welcome you onto the steps to help us decorate our banner and share our message with the world that climate refugees exist.